What is up, ladies and gents? Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to find accommodation in the United States when you're coming here for your master's. This is for those students who are coming to the US and you don't know how to book an apartment to stay or how to find roommates or like how to do any of that stuff. This video should be your one-stop guide to figuring all that stuff out and hopefully saving you hours of time on Facebook groups or whatever, trying to figure out who to talk to and how to get an apartment, right? So without much further ado, let's get into it. Um, I'm gonna make this video specifically showing the neighborhood around NC State because I go to NC State. So this is a map of Raleigh right here. If you go to a different university, that's fine. Just pull up the map of your own university and kind of follow as I go along, right? Okay, so I'm gonna start off by talking about the two most basic things. So if you think about it, when you're coming to the US and you want accommodation, you basically need two things. Number one, you need roommates if you're staying in an apartment which has more than one bedroom or if which is one that's not a studio. And number two, you need a place to stay, right? So how do you figure these things out? So the first thing that you would want to do is actually find roommates, right? Because when you apply to okay, before I go into this, I'm going to give you some context if you don't know this already. You can't really book an apartment or rent an apartment in the US like you would do in India, at least when it comes to like university housing or whatever. Because, in India, you would walk into the house, talk to like whatever, I don't know, an agent or whatever, see the house, check everything out, and then sign the lease and agree to pay the rent and stuff like that, right? But that doesn't really work here because you have to have your name on a lease before you're showing up in the US because um, during immigration and stuff like that in the airport, they're gonna see what your address is. And if you have a relative or someone you can stay at, then great. Even if it's like an Airbnb or whatever, that's fine. But eventually they're gonna ask for, I mean, they might not ask for it, but they can ask for some proof of like, okay, but where are you actually staying in the US, right? So that would preferably be your lease, and then that would point to the apartment you're renting out with your roommates. And so you have to have that before you show up in the US. And also, if you show up in the US and then decided to do stuff like that, you're just way too late, and you're not gonna get anything. You're gonna get like some weird ass apartment or like 10 miles from university or whatever because everything else is full. But you should start this 3 months, 4 months before you arrive in the US, maybe even 5, 6 months, who knows, right? But be early and be on top of your game. So by now you know that you need to find roommates and you need to get an apartment, right? So how do you do this stuff? Um, the first thing is when you're looking for roommates, you want to filter people according to like whatever is your lifestyle. So for example, if you're vegetarian, you might want to point that out. If you're someone who doesn't drink or smoke, you want to point that out, or other things like that. Maybe you like a very quiet and studious kind of environment in your apartment. Maybe you're someone who likes to party and have lots of people over, and that's great, that's cool as well. So you want people who match your vibe, and so I suggest you try to begin finding roommates before you show up in the US because if you get paired with random people, there's a 50-50 chance you might like them or you might not like them. So you should start doing this before you show up. And then how do you do this? So the easiest way is actually to go to Facebook groups of your university or of your the area in and around where you're staying. And a lot of the times your college will have these organizations like NC State has an Indian graduate student organization called My3, and you can just like go to the My3 Facebook page and make a post saying, hey, looking for roommates and whatever, and then people will reply. You can chat with them on Facebook and see if they match your vibe or if you guys look like you're gonna be a good match. But yeah, I highly suggest starting that process as soon as possible. Find out Facebook pages which are relevant for students just like you for your university and for wherever you are looking for housing, and make posts, reply to comments on existing posts, and find people, right? I'll give you a quick tip. I think it's the best if you actually meet up with the people you're planning to share a room with in person before you show up in the US with them, because I believe it's actually kind of impossible to truly understand a person's personality on the internet. So if you're actually going to be staying with someone and you think, hey, we're going to be roommates, I understand you might be from different cities and it might be hard, but like try and meet up in person or do something as close to that as possible so that you really understand each other's personality and like what you are like in real life. It shouldn't be that you decide a room with someone and you show up in the US and they appear to be completely different from what they thought you were, because in that case like you're probably making a mistake, right? So, make sure that you know those people well, and then you vibe well, and then be sure that you want to be roommates together. And also now, as you are like finding roommates or like recruiting roommates or like whatever, like making a group with these people such that you kind of want to come to the US and stay together. Now it's time for you to start looking at apartments, right? So, I'm gonna talk to you about Raleigh here because that's the map I have opened up. I'm gonna click on Trinity Apartments, which is, I think, a pretty popular one where people stay. So you can see here that they have this thing called TrinityApartments.com. So what you want to do is open the website for the apartment, and then, okay, so they have apartments in Duke, which is in Durham. They have apartments for, well, Duke is in Duke University, and this is NC State. And then around NC State, they have Gorman Crossings, KP, and Cresttown Homes. So let's go to Gorman, right? So you go to Gorman, and then, okay, you see a bunch of stuff. There are a variety of like apartment types, so 2 bed, 1.5 bath, whatever, 3 bed, stuff like that. And then you can see the rents on the right hand side, and then the NCSU rent is a little bit lower than the normal rent because there's like a slight discount for NCSU students. And then you kind of want to take an apartment depending upon the number of people you have. So if you have 3 people, take a 3 BHK, or maybe if you have 4 people and 2 people want to share a room, take a 3 BHK, whatever. You can see the plans here, I think. So these will be kind of like a 2D blueprint of the house like this. This is pretty much accurate. The photos also tend to be pretty much accurate. If you don't trust these photos and you think that somebody should be here in person, checking this stuff out, I mean, hard luck. What if you don't know anyone where you're in the city where you're going to go for your master's? You don't have a choice, right? You have to trust the photos. So they're usually accurate. It's not gonna be like a big problem or anything. So trust the photos. These blueprints are accurate, so get a feel of what the flat will be like. And then once you're ready to like do all that, you have to click apply, right? So here's where it gets like a little bit different from what you might expect, and you might not know this. So this is a big thing, but you essentially have to fill in a giant form with your details and all of that stuff. And this form is something that all of your roommates have to fill in individually. So everybody has to fill in this form, and you have to make a $50 application fee for submitting the form, which is non-refundable, meaning that this is kind of like saying you sent your GRE score to a university and you had to pay like $70 for it. It's just gone. It's like that, right? So it's like you have to pay this fee. You're not getting it back. You have to pay the fee, and then I think So everybody has to pay the fee. So it's a fee per application, and then once you pay the fee, you have to pay a deposit, I think, at the end of the application. You can split it amongst everyone. Somebody can pay it, just manage it out. But if you have a 3 BHK, slightly bigger deposit. If you have a 2 BHK, slightly lesser. I think the deposit is, I think it's approximately 1 month's rent, maybe, or like 80% of 1 month's rent, or something like that. But it's just a deposit. If you don't actually get the apartment, or if you withdraw your application and decide to stay somewhere else, you can do that, and you're gonna get the money back, all of the money, like no issues or whatever. They just give it back to you, but you have to make that deposit. So this is kind of like a process where you do all of this online, and you actually like submit an application for a housing location, kind of like you would submit an application for a university, right? It's almost like that. I don't know if you remember, but you probably had to pay a certain amount of money to send your application to a university. And then, yeah, so this is like kind of similar to that, but it's like cheaper, but this is how you do it. And then what happens is these guys will get like a ton of applications, and then they'll queue them, and then they're gonna give the applications to the people who, signed for them on a first come, first served basis. So it's like by the time you fill this application up, if you have a 2 or a 3 BHK, you must know who your roommates are, so that those people can also fill up this form. And in fact, this particular form has a field where it asks you to mention your roommates' names. And then if those names are also found on other applications for this apartment complex, they'll just like pair you guys together and send you all a common a lease, or like a rental agreement, saying that, hey, you know what, like these four people are staying together. And I mean, they're gonna confirm with all of you all of that stuff. Eventually they're gonna send you emails and stuff, but that's kind of how you do it. So before you fill up the form, you must know the people you're staying with, and you must know the kind of apartment you're applying to. So also, I'd say, wait a minute, yeah. So here, can I go back? No. Okay, here. So the code is 2B, 2C. So these are like the apartment types, right? So like 2B stands for like this layout, 2C stands for like this layout. Like all these three says 2B 1.5 bath, but the blueprints are different, right? Even these two might look the exact same, but the blueprints are different. That's why they're like separate. Well, actually, it's 2C, 2C. This might be a glitch. Anyways, but they're like different blueprints and stuff. So you're gonna have to pick an apartment type when you fill up the application. You can actually, I guess, fill up multiple types. Like if you're like, say, three people and you want a two-bed apartment, and you're like, fine, just give me from a 2B to a 2F, like we'll take whatever we can get, go ahead, sure. You're probably increasing your chances at that point of time. But yeah, fill it up. Do mail them. Go ahead and mail them and ask if there are openings. People usually reply. If you don't get a reply, send a reminder in a week. If you're still gonna get a reply, then I don't know. Hey, just go ahead and apply, I guess. If it sounds like uh, a good thing to do, right? Um, so usually, you're gonna have to like specify your apartment type number, and then once all that stuff is set, you're gonna get the rental agreement, and then whoever is in charge of like the apartments and stuff like that, they're gonna get in touch and figure everything out with you. So it's not like you're living in an apartment complex and you're talking to the guy who owns the flat or the apartment, but it's more like there's like a central authority that owns all the apartments, like management, and they rent all the apartments. So no one really owns any single apartment. Everyone's actually on rent. So you just kind of like go through them. So that's kind of what's happening here, and I'm betting that's kind of what's happening in most places. I mean, if you're staying in a house, or like in a particular like building, you might have like a particular landlord and stuff. But usually, if you stay in one of these like big student university housing off-campus places, it's kind of like that. So there's just a central authority. And then yeah, so find your roommates and then make sure you put your applications in, right? So you probably want to decide where you're applying, and you want to kind of choose a place that is good. Now, I'm from NC State, so I'll give you my feedback for like the apartments and stuff at the end of this video. But if you're from some other college, I suggest talking to students who are at that college or seniors of the college and trying and figuring out which apartments are the popular ones or which are the good ones to stay at or the ones which have good reviews. I wouldn't necessarily say just look at the Google stars and the Google reviews and go by that. Like, no one really cares about this stuff. I don't think any students actually post reviews here. Go on the Facebook groups and ask questions to people who are. Honestly, I think before you show up, you must at least know one or two seniors in your college. I think that's a great idea. If you don't know anyone, um, I don't know, man. Find posts on Facebook, find people on LinkedIn, and just cold email them. Just say hi. I think it's extremely important to have one or two points of contact in your university before you show up, because at least that way you have access to some information before you go, right? So even if you don't know anyone, like, force yourself to make contacts at your university before you show up. I guarantee that it is a good idea, hands down. Like, you will not regret it, right? So yeah, find out the places which are good, and apply for those places, or maybe just apply for one. And if you know you're gonna get it for sure, then that's great. You don't lose money like that. But yeah, that's kind of how you apply for the apartment. And I also told you about like how you find roommates. And so now I'm gonna tell you about the map of NC State and just kind of where you want to be looking for students, looking for apartments if you're like an international student, or if you're like someone from India who's just coming and you want to kind of learn the layout. So, okay, here you can see this place called Tally Student Union. Miller Fields, all that kind of stuff. So this entire area is basically the main um, campus. So you have Hill Library, which is on Hillsborough Street, but basically there's gonna be a bunch of buildings here, which is like the main campus of NC State, as it's called. So you're gonna have a bunch of stuff here, and then way up here, this kind of circular, the small green oval area, this place is called Centennial. So this is like the Centennial campus of NC State, and there are like these two main campuses. And so Centennial campus is like the STEM campus. So if you're like in engineering, I don't know, computer science, double E, ECE, stuff like that, you're gonna have classes here. This is like the STEM part of the campus. And then the main campus is the area where you have your traditional like arts classes, or like the other majors which are not STEM, like history, music, social sciences, the other stuff. So this place you'd have like non-STEM classes. So if you're an Indian student coming to the US for the first time in NC State, I'm gonna bet you're coming here for a STEM degree. I could be wrong, but hey, I'm just saying. So you kind of wanna, like, you're gonna be traveling here for your classes every single day. So I would suggest stay at an apartment which is on Avant Ferry Road. So in order of precedence, you'd have Gorman Crossings, you'd have Trinity, so you have Gorman and you have Kensington Apartments, both of which are under Trinity Properties. You have Avery Close, you have, what else do you have? Think you have Champions Court, which is somewhere around here. Um, you have Ivy Commons as well. I'm not Ivy Commons Drive. It's somewhere around here. I don't know why they don't have um, like a pin on the map. And then if you kind of go down Avon Ferry and you travel the way up, like through Gorman, you can get to University Commons, which is pretty popular, and some of the other ones, I guess. But try and stay somewhere which is on Avant Ferry Road because you're going to be super close to both the main campus and Centennial and groceries and restaurants and stuff. So it's a pretty convenient place to stay in. And if you get in early and get an apartment, probably going to be paying less than $500 for an apartment, even if you're just staying by yourself. I mean, it could go up to 600, including utilities, but if you get your deals right, yeah, you could get one for like around 500, so which is great. I highly suggest trying to get one in this area. They're all good. Just get whatever you can find, honestly. Like I said, if you're coming in the fall of, let's say, 2023, start looking by like Feb or March or as early as you can, just get that stuff in because it's like first come, first serve kind of. So make sure you're doing that correctly. And so uh, this kind of line right here called Hillsborough Street is actually like a super popular, super happening, like shops everywhere, places to hang out, restaurants, coffee shops, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. So it's like a very lit kind of street, very happening. You kind of like want to come here to like just hang out or like chill or whatever. So Hill Library is right up here, and stuff. Is a Target here as well. So there are apartments which are near Hillsborough Street as well. So you have Valentine Commons, you have I think Stanhope, you have a bunch of other stuff on this street. You have Signature. I mean, you have a bunch of apartments which are in and around this street. They are fine, I'd say, but they are slightly on the more expensive side. So you'd probably be paying around 800 to maybe even 900 or even $1,000, including utilities at some of these apartments. Um, be aware that you are paying $1,000, but the quality of the apartments that you're getting is way better than whatever you would get like on Avon Ferry paying like $500 a month. Like some of these apartments look like hotels or like these really fancy kind of yeah, like you walk into a 4 or 5 star hotel, you know what the lobby looks like. It's like artwork and stuff and a huge seating area, pool tables, blah blah. I don't know, whatever, like swimming pools and stuff. So they're like very fancy and like very chic and you know sexy kind of, but at the same time you are paying a lot more money. Also, these apartments tend to be furnished because you're paying so much more, but the ones on Avon Ferry, if you just walk into an apartment, it's going to be unfurnished, like you won't have any furniture inside. So that's there. Um, but I would say try and not take an apartment on Hillsborough. One, because it's far away from Centennial, so your commute is longer. And then secondly, because most of the international kind of community is kind of centered around Abbotsbury Road here, like the path here and then the path back up. This is usually where most of the people will stay, and especially along this like path here. Like this is where you'll find the most Indian sub communities, so I'd suggest you try and get an apartment here. Um, yeah, that's about it. Buy a cycle so your commute is easier and stuff, and you don't have to like wait for the buses all the time. It's gonna make your life a lot better. Yeah, that's about it. Um, let me know if you have any questions down in the comments below, and do let me know what kind of stuff you'd like to see next on the channel. Um, I'm gonna try and take this channel seriously and try and upload more videos as and when I can. But yeah, leave a like if you found this video useful, share it with a friend who needs it, and I will see you guys in the next video. Remember to stay safe, stay healthy, keep your friends and family safe and healthy. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care of yourselves. Stay well. Bye for now. Hey, have a great day.